Sadly, it is much easier to create a desert than a forest, as James Locke has correctly pointed out in this book of the globally hampered situation of the environment. Good morning to one and all. This is Riya Pawar from WeCitizen Foundation, along with
Myself,
Tanvi Gumma from Fergusson College Economics Club. And we will be hosting this panel discussion on a very relevant topic for today's day and age, the issue of climate change and the role of Indian schools. I can already feel a wave of excitement from our audience as well as from our guests. So I hope that everyone is very excited to listen to our amazing and dynamic guests today. So without any further ado, let us quickly invite Vineet for a welcome address.
There's one issue that will define the contours of this century more dramatically than any other, and that is the urgent and growing threat of a changing climate. These were the words of former US President Barack Obama. These words were on deliberation and action, and that's why we have gathered here today. Good morning, everyone. I welcome you all to this virtual national conference. The theme of this conference is School, Sustainability and Education, our roadmap to Sustainable Development Goals 2030. Today, we have a well informed panel who will share their insight on the topic issue of climate change, role of Indian schools. I would like to give a brief introduction about our panelists. Our first panelist, Ms. Payal Chugh, is an engineer and she has filed a provisional patent for her invention. She has bagged various awards and grants. Our second panelist, Ms. Pragya, is an active campaigner and influencer. She has been acknowledged by various platforms like Twitter for her amazing work. Throughout her career, she has pushed for social change. Our third panelist, Mr. Siddharth Baskar, is a law graduate. He has the international experience and a diploma in environmental law. Our fourth panelist, Mr. Yogendra Singh, is Incharge Headmaster at Government Middle School, Narsinghpur, Madhya Pradesh. He has established Vriksh Mitra, which has planted tree every Sunday since 2019. So this was the brief introduction. I thank everyone present here and I hope that you gain some amazing perspective and knowledge from this conference. Thank you.
thank you, Vineet, for your welcome address. So, teachers are guiding angels for students, and this has been made evident by our first panel guest, Yogendra Singh sir. Yogendra Singh sir has showcased how teachers play a vital role in inculcating values in young minds. He is an in-charge headmaster at Government Middle School, Madhya Pradesh. I would like to request Yogendra sir to unmute himself and say a few words.
Let's move on to our second guest. Our second guest, Ms. Pragya Vats, is an inspiration for all. She is listed among 17 women change makers for SDG by Twitter India, and she is also the initiator of Save the Children campaign. She is a great motivation for all of us. I would like to request you to unmute yourself and say a few words, ma'am.
So first, a huge thank you to Ria and the entire team for organizing this. I couldn't not be here on a Sunday morning with you all because it's just such an. I think it inspires me to see when I see young people leading the change and taking that extra step towards what's really needed in terms of creating social impact. So, huge thank you. Um, and the topic that we have taken, I'm not a climate expert, to be really honest. I'm not a climate expert, but I do believe in the power of youth action, in harnessing the collective power of the society and individual to really impact that change that only we can do if we do it together. And I would just sort of, in order to bring alive this issue, why young people matter so much, I would just use a few statistics. Save the Children brought out a report, Save the Children, which is a child rights organization. So we look at every issue from the lens of children and young people. We brought out a report last year, which was called Born into Climate Crisis. And one of the most startling data that remains with me till date is that children who were born in 2020 are 7 times more likely to experience harsher weather conditions than their grandparents or grandparents born in 1960s. And this itself is startling. And we believe that, unless we look at policies and action from the lens of children, we are jeopardizing the future, which you will inherit. So it's so important that climate action keeps young people at the center. Young people at the center of change, because for no fault of young people, they're still worst and first impacted. We all know. And we also know that there is no planet B. And unless we galvanize our collective effort, and more than that, if young people have to lead way, adults have to make way. So there needs to be a compact between young people, which is all of you, working towards solution, organization adults like ourselves who can really make space for you to be the voice on an agenda, because there is no planet B. If we don't act now, we are jeopardizing the present and also the future that you will inherit. So climate action is the need of the hour, because clock is ticking. And if we don't act now, we are jeopardizing all our future collectively. And for me, I feel that young people, many of us would have missed the headline in 2020, where 2020 was also, because of the pandemic, 2020 was also the year where when India became one of the youngest nations in the world, with the median age being 29. So you know that we are a young nation. And if we need to create a social impact or a collective action for social good, youth and young people have to be at the center of change. We cannot ignore young people anymore. It's not like we can tell you what to do. It has to be a joint, a collaborative effort between organizations, individuals, all of you, to be the voice and continue to ring in the change that we so need. Because you are energetic, you are optimistic, and you all believe in change. And we need to be a part, and we need to be supporting all of you in whatever way we can. In fact, we have a campaign. Save the Children is running a global campaign called Generation Hope, which exactly does this, which is about listening to young people and their voice. Well, because when we listen to you, we are listening to the present and the future. So I would urge you all to join, because along with Youth Ki Awaaz, we have also announced and launched a blog space where anyone who is working on climate, they can write, they can voice their opinion. So use that space, because we need more and more voices coming out of all quarters of the country to be able to really impact change. And we feel that in the time to come, if young people and organizations and individuals were to come together, imagine a future where young people form a caucus which is listened to by the government. And that's the space we need to aspire for. Young people need the seat on the table. And because without you, we cannot build that collective impact and a future that you deserve. So help us help you better. And we need your voice and we need your action to be able to drive the impact that we are all gathered here for. Because we cannot ignore climate change. It's real, it's here, and we need to be moving at a pace which is faster than what we are doing now. So with that, I would just end my note, and happy to answer any questions that you may have. But you guys are the powerhouse. Lead the way. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pragya ma'am, for such an informative piece and inspiring all the youth to do what the climate change is required for the youth to do. Moving on, I would like to introduce our third panel guest, Parul Chugh ma'am. She has a keen interest for science as a researcher at Delhi University and has not only volunteered in several renowned social initiatives but also was a part of AIESEC, an international youth run, non governmental and non profit organization, and did global volunteering in different schools across Slovakia, Europe. She was also awarded the prestigious Khurana Fellowship worth $5,000 from the Government of India for conducting research at the University of Wisconsin, Madison, USA. I would like to request Parul ma'am to unmute yourself and say a few words.
Thank you so much, Ria, Tanvi, to invite me. And also, I'm thankful to Mr. Abhishek Ranjan, your mentor, for giving me this opportunity to talk today on this panel. Talking about my experience, actually, I'm a biology based researcher. Climate change is just a part of my master's dissertation project, in which I have worked on parali, that how to solve the problem of parali. I live in Delhi NCR, and the problem of high AQI index arises every time, and the major cause behind it was the parali pollution being caused in the states of Punjab and Haryana. So, as a master students, young students, we thought of doing something out of it. We had a published paper on how we can make suitable plans for that. The problem which I personally faced was that we have many solutions for that. We have solutions for climate change. We all know what to do in that. The problem comes at the ground level because everybody gives advices, but when it comes to implementation, people always think about money. That if it is cheap, yes, we can go for it, but if it is not cheap, we will not do that change. So somehow that implementation needs to be done. There are many conferences, there are many forums on which we talk about that. As an individual, sometimes we avoid things. Sometimes a plastic bottle costs us cheaper, so we buy that rather than buying a biodegradable cups or anything. We also know that somehow we are contributing to the environmental change, but still we are doing the same just for cutting the cost. So this is something which I personally believe that yes, we have solutions. If you say that we don't have any solution, no, we are wrong in that. We have multiple solutions for that. We are a country of very good innovators with very good scientific people who have many solutions to beat that. Even around the world, people know what to do with that, but everyone at the end stage comes to the point that if it is affordable or not. So we should start working in the direction that uh, it should be little cheaper in the way that people can easily afford to make that change. So this is something which is a problem of developing countries like India, which can't afford high tech technologies to solve this problem. Secondly, which the problem which I face is that when you give solutions to the stakeholders, people usually copy your idea rather than implementing it and just spread it to the other people around. Whereas in the global scenario, everyone is appreciated for their approach. So for when you talk about Indian scenario, there are many things which needs to be done on the case of climate change, if you say about. But yes, there are so many things, especially the Indian schools. Since the panel is about Indian schools, I believe nowadays many CSR initiatives from the private companies are being done in Indian government schools, and they are a public-private initiative has been very active in Indian schools. So people are working in that direction also. Children are being aware that how to deal with that. Even younger kids, like primary school students, are being taught how to plant sapling, uh, how to work on environment sustainability. And even many trainings are being organized by many private companies and government schools to aware students about this climate change. So yes, the direction is the thing have been initiated. Our country is progressing in that direction, but only thing is that our implementation needs to be done in a more effective manner. So hopefully from the public private partnership, as Ms. Pragya has already mentioned, that there are many initiatives already going on in the country, but more initiatives are being required, and then definitely we can solve this problem of climate change. Also, I would like to point that when we talk about traditional knowledge, let's say the knowledge of medicinal plants, etc., so from one generation to the another, these knowledge has been passed on. Similarly, for climate change and environment related matter, this knowledge needs to be passed on from one generation to the another, and rather than just making thinking in that direction that we should do it for our children and the children should think that, oh, our future is on the stake, let's do that. I think it's more of a collaborative effort which one needs to done in this direction. Otherwise there will be no solution, there will be blame game which will happen at the last. So yes, I'll just end my speech with that. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your enlightening words and for re emphasizing on the importance of gap between solutions and actions. And for our next guest, Mr. Siddharth Baskar, he is a pioneer in law and one of the most dynamic and intellectual personalities, as well as a change maker. His participation in summer law school in Netherlands and Czech Republic has provided him with an international experience and added to the intellectualness of his personality. He has a strong interest in expanding his knowledge of environmental law, and he is someone who can inspire us greatly. So, Siddharth sir, I would like to request you to please unmute yourself and guide us.
Thank you for the humble introduction. So, I introduce myself as Siddharth. I'm currently an associate at Fox Mandal, uh, LLP, New Delhi office. So, I would like to start by pointing out what has been led by our fellow speakers. So, my take is that take collective action or face collective suicide. These are not my words, but the words of UN Secretary General. So, if we don't catch up with the rest of the world in protecting our planet, climate change education is there and should be a priority, because if we don't take steps we can't reach the events or the developed nations that have led to the steps of climate development and climate curriculum. Now my question here comes forward is how many Indian politicians, educators or curriculum developers and even teachers are aware of the phase climate change education? So how many of them can discuss its significance or discuss it in schools or even believe that it should be taught, is a question that needs to be answered, and we as a nation account for that we need to answer these questions. So interestingly and sadly, India is placed last among 180 nations in the Environmental Performance Index of 2022, which basically rates each nation's environment, sustainability, and health. Shocking, isn't it? So, we as a country have not given prior emphasis to climate change, and this needs to be done by having an intellectual debate about it and also having a good curriculum. So, the first and foremost need is for promptness. So, recently, climate change chapters was deleted by NCRT, specifically quoting class 11 greenhouse effect and class 7 weather change and water. So I believe it was a backward step, but due to the outcry of a lot of educators and people, it was promised that these would be returned. So people can only become aware of the problems and examine them critically if it is discussed. And responding to the difficulties in a meaningful manner is the need of the hour. Policymaker ought to assist the educators, because educators can't alone bring a change. And the first need is for a course curriculum. Now climate change education needs a clear emphasis that is very well established, and the need is that the schools, the teachers in a particular way play a crucial role in developing the best climate education curriculum. How can this be done? This can be done by active debates about climate change topics, and also understanding topics like ethics in the light of emergence of green jobs or growing awareness in conscious businesses. So environment education and a call for sustainable living can help eradicate the underlying causes of climate change. As mentioned by one of the fellow speakers, that the need is for implementation. Now, if we refer to the implementation part, the first and foremost step is to discuss. So, if the pupils are encouraged by the educators to discuss on recent topics like poor air quality, wildfires, deforestations, or even palm oil cultivation that has destroyed the carbon sinks as of now. So these issues must be discussed in geography's ongoing or environmental classrooms, and teachers must provide them with the opportunity. Only if the teachers provide the students with the opportunity, they would be able to be a good leader in future. Also, there ought to be a chance to create prototypes that harness renewable energy sources like sun and the wind, and create devices that utilize mechanical energy of a moving bicycle to recharge a battery, for example. So the educators or the instructors need to be prepared to address the topic of climate change and also promote project based learning. So project based learning is something that I came across that needs to be implemented. I have seen that a lot of schools have environment clubs dedicated to them. But the real thing is, apart from imparting the education, are they carrying it back home? So schools, I believe, are the grassroots level from which an individual learns. And the foremost quality that one should imbibe is to understand that these prototypes or these practical learning should carry with them, and the inclusion of these students voices is very important for me. And the future administrator or the politicians can well can very well implement these programs specifically, and the UN SDGs specifically have regularly adopted by the progressive schools all over the years and worlds. And one of the prime example that I would like to quote is of a model United Nations. All schools, I believe, do have model United Nations, and they can have conferences, and the students can debate about the topics to learn more, and also to have initiatives like annual energy audit that basically examines the energy efficiency of the buildings or in wild nature to reduce the usage of fossil fuel as well as the carbon prints. So we need to promote it by telling our students, by telling the future coming generation to go for green, and also to use climate change to the best possible to create a wonderful change. Our ecosystem can only be preserved if we take a change and also follow an ecocentric value system. Now I believe that the students will learn more if they get a practical experience. This can also be in the form of field trips by the students, or they could also visit certain indigenous groups and also understand about how they live sustainably, because it is important to understand that the people around us, especially the regional groups, they live in harmony with the nature, and that is something that we could take a lesson from. And we can create an education system that fights more simply climate change by making curriculum more practical and reflective. And I believe a collaboration is needed and the need of the hour, and the opinions of students must be well addressed by everyone. So this is it from my side, and thank you so much. If there are any questions, I would be happy to answer them as well.
Thank you so much, sir, for your enlightening words. First of all, the omitting of chapters from the syllabus of NCRT is a very serious issue. I don't think any one of us has paid enough attention to that. And along with that, I would also like to thank you for highlighting the importance of practicality in learning that should be brought. So, for efficient maintaining of smooth functioning of the systems, the role of law and order is very crucial. And in context of environment, it is very essential because as we can see, people many of the times try to find loopholes in the environmental laws and try to like basically overlook them. So I would like to know from you, Siddharth sir, the importance of environment and law and how they can tie together to spread awareness in the younger generations and younger minds in schools.
So, in layman's word, I would define law as an instrument of social change. It brings about a positive change. And in the context of environment law and sustainability is interlinked. So, if we have a good governance system, good policies, good laws, definitely environment would be improved. And the best example to quote for I can vouch for is the Indian judiciary. Now, Supreme Court has time and again incorporated various things. So I would like to quote Article 21, which basically is right to life. And the Supreme Court went far to say that right to life is associated to right to healthy environment, which basically implies that the use of environment and to live sustainably is the goal of every citizen. So it has become a fundamental right to be noted. And I believe that law is an instrument that can bring us about a change, as well as to quote that in a recent case that I was reading, the courts have also gone far to say that public parks are the lungs of the cities. So I think these judgments, these laws, these policies, as well as the functioning of the National Green Tribunal and the honorable courts in our country is must. And they are here to guide and to play a role to improve the environment. So law plays an important role, and it is up to us citizens also to follow the directives to lead a change.
Well said, sir. It's the responsibility of the public to follow the law. And thank you for your inspiring and informative answer. Moving ahead, there are no passenger spaceships on Earth. We are all a crew, and the role of youth in this crew is prominent. I would like to know from you, Parul ma'am, how youth led small initiatives are helping us in making a positive impact in the context of climate change.
Thank you, Tanvi, for the question. Being a youth myself, I was being a part of ISEC, which you have already mentioned that I worked in Slovakia for some time. So it is a youth-led organization. It's a global organization which deals in different categories. So environment is one of the categories in which they work. Although I have not worked with them in that category. So as a global citizen, it is not just like as an Indian citizen. As a global citizen, the youth of all the countries are coming together. They are spending time. They are volunteering themselves at different places and awareing people, especially the natives of that place, regarding the change. So that's how youth is giving a small contribution in that way, which I personally as a part of that organization. And also there are other NGOs alongside, because during my COVID time in my university itself, it was given we were given a task as a part of our it's like a sustainable club, not exactly with climate, but a normal sustainable club, and we have to do some social activity as a part of our college. And during COVID time, I have collaborated with a NGO near me who are planting trees in all the public parks, because that's how the government has given them the duty to maintain that park. So I got involved with them. I planted also the trees, awared my friends, also took them, just even to click selfies we took them, and try to make it more fun activities. So that's how youth is also contributing, and also making our social media profile look very good. The youth is somehow contributing to the environment. They are becoming aware, and I think such kind of initiative should be there, in which uh, one feels pride to to make a change. That people feel good when they put a selfie that I planted a tree. So that's how such kind of campaigns actually motivate the youth in that. So with time things are changing, and yes, youth is contributing a lot in that. And actually I belong to a metro city, so that's how we are contributing. But someone who are living in villages, I think they are more aware than us. The only thing is that they are not and planting trees, thinking about the climate is not something they are doing to as a part of climate change action. Rather, it's a part of their culture to plant trees. So we should promote such activities. And similarly, the things which are being said by Ms. Pragya and Mr. Siddharth, that initiatives, more public private collaboration should be there in that. Youth is contributing, and also more youth should participate in such activities. We can make it more creative, so that more and more people should join us. And also incentive should be given. For instance, you in the colleges or in the schools, maybe one credit course, or maybe some extra marks for contributing to the climate should be given. That's how they get encouraged for that. Yeah, that's how I think they should work in that. Even in even in the corporate world, if you even if you contribute something, so you should get some reward. That okay, that maybe you will get a 1 day leave for doing this activity. This thing can be done, and people are doing that.
Thank you
Thank you.
so much, ma'am, for beautifully putting things down. Yeah, so so Pragya ma'am, addressing you today, we can see that youth are playing an active role in raising awareness and their voice on social media, like Greta Thunberg. This is often seen as a positive change in society. As Kofi Annan correctly quoted, any society that does not succeed at tapping into the energy and innovation of its youth will be left behind. How do you think that this active involvement of youth should be seen?
So, thank you first for the question, because I firmly believe as an individual in active citizenship. And active citizenship is different because it makes us all, as an individual, accountable to our ecosystem, right? So it's not like an option that you have to do or not to do, but it's mandated by you being a citizen to impact change around you. So I think active citizenship is one thing that I feel must become the bedrock of all the entire youth action. You're not doing it as, as a favor to someone, because often our mindset is that, if you're doing this, we're doing it for someone else. Till we do not believe that we are doing this to help ourselves, to help our planet, we are not doing it for any other individual, I think it will keep passing the buck. So it's very important to embed youth action in the active citizenship and towards the ecosystem that you live in. Second point that I would want to make in the same, that, like often we feel, it's a related point, but I would say that we often see that, we are not a part of the problem, right? Someone else is a part of the problem. But till we see ourselves as a part of the problem and accountable, we would not move towards solutions and collective solutions. Because, uh, that's really, really important, that, like not to look at it from the lens of charity or favor, but look at it from the lens of that if I do this, this is my responsibility towards the planet, towards the nation, towards the society. And the power, I think the magic of individual action is so immense that, sometimes one individual leading the change, and we have seen so many examples, whether you look at Greta, whether you look at Malala, whether you look at so many Medha Patkar, or whether you look at the movement space within the country, one person leads the way and it becomes a movement for the time to come. So I think that's what we need, like connect with the young people across, because it's not optional, because we have no option now not to act. So I would say that it's very, very important that it has to be rooted in active citizenship, which I said. We have to see ourselves as the part of the problem. We have to be the voice. The third bit is that, continue to ring in, continue to form the network. I'm giving you very practical solutions, right? You have to find your allies. There's so many young people, and Ria, you are a part of the young campaigners group, which Save the Children is also sort of running. You see the energy is there. And another, I would say, lesson that I have learned from having worked with some of the young people very closely is the way you see leadership. I personally have seen where young people leave, they're also willing to share space. So if you have the privilege and if you have the position of privilege, it's very, very important that you share their privilege by sharing the stories of the marginalized or those that unsung heroes, because we have the privilege of space and access. And it's so important that we use it to tell the story which needs to be told. And Parul, you were talking about, like how people are more aware and in the rural areas. I would say, and some of them may already know, when we work with young people, there's so many amazing, inspiring young individuals who are leading climate action. And when I went to Odisha once, there's a girl called Dipanjali. She knew the IPCC report, what it was talking about, because she had read the key highlights. And she belongs to a remote village in Odisha. So the keenness to learn and the keenness to know has to be there. You have to be curious. You have to be curious to be able to find the solution. See yourself as a part of the problem. Hence, you will see yourself as a part of the solution. Um, and share space. Build a movement. Build connections. Forge connections. Call in adults who can help you, because we have to call in, create dialogue. I think that's the only way, because the human connections is so powerful. Apart from, and the change is so magical. There's a ring to change that suddenly you'll feel that one person initiates change and so many different people join along to make it a movement. So I think that's the need of the hour, and I've seen this work. The only effort that is needed is how do we come together more often to sustain the momentum on the conversations, for instance, this Sunday morning. It should not be seen as, like we meet on a Sunday morning and have this panel discussion, go back. How do we, even this group, how do we continue to be connected is so important. Hope that answers your question, Ria.
Definitely, ma'am. That was really beautifully put. And thank you for like highlighting the role of youth in this again, and highlighting the role of collaborative efforts, which we all need today. My next question is for Parul, ma'am. Environment is taught as a subject in school and not as a concern. When it is concerned with environment, we are often told to make projects related to science, but we are never specifically told in schools that make a project related to environment. You yourself being an innovator, how do you think we can turn schools into a hub for innovation and impart knowledge from schools so that children can learn things in a better way?
Thank you so much, Ria, for your question. This thing is actually tampering me from so many years that we are only being given such holiday homeworks to make on climate change. So we just copy it from Wikipedia, make it more creative, and just do it, right? But nowadays, I guess people are getting shifted towards that. Now, in earlier days, there was a subject known as EVS. It right begins from, I guess, first standard, where people start learning about the importance of environmental studies. Now the government has made it mandatory even in the university to learn EVS, I guess, or environmental studies for one semester at least, so that people become aware of thermal energy and other thing but in more detail. For the schools part, I would rather say that many schools have already started, and many are in the process, especially the private one. And I think now the government one in different states have also started the initiative, that rather than making the projects, they have to take, for instance, they have to plant a sapling at their home, they have to keep them and study the germination pattern and how they can as a part of their science project. Also, in some, like in my college project, which was done like 2 years back, we have to collaborate with the NGOs working in, planting trees in a park nearby, or we should plant, let's say, 5 trees nearby. So yes, these initiatives has been started, but still there's a long way to go in that. And my mother, she's a CSR head in Shai. That's why I know that there is a public private partnership going on. So she has collaborated with many government schools in the rural areas of Faridabad and Haryana area, because her office is situated there. So there, what she is trying to do is that she's making the students aware of how to, plant trees, what is the importance of climate change. And they are planting the trees, they are taking care of them, they are making trees as their brother and tying rakhi to them as a part of, as to make them feel that they own that, and they have to, maintain it to make our planet a better place. So such activities are going on, but many more needs to be done. And except for the projects, yes, now, as I think Mr. Siddharth has already mentioned, that more practical things needs to be done, rather than just making those projects and I think wasting paper again, cutting trees. So yes, practical things needs to be done. School should give projects in such a manner that people practically do that, and the results can be shown, and also the children can inculcate those knowledge right from the beginning itself, that how to take care and how to make their own change in their life. And also, young kids are so enthusiastic, they also taught their, grandparents not to use plastics. I have seen my neighbor kid, instructing their grandfather not to drink water in plastic thing, and have biodegradable things. So yes, I think the younger children are also contributing somehow, and many things needs to be done more. Such awareness campaign should be there, and I personally believe that even in 10 years we can make a very good change if things are going on in this direction. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for highlighting the importance of practical projects to be given to the children. And it was happy to know that small kids are really aware of the environment right from such a young age. My next question is directed to Pragya, ma'am. The best inheritance as a parent can give his children is a few minutes of his time each day. I would like to know from you, ma'am, that the role of parenting in creating a sense of sensitivity towards the environment. What is the role of parenting in this?
So, well, since I'm not a parent, uh, I would be able to share my experience as a child and what I got from my parents. Um, so I feel that the one of the biggest gifts, in terms of, or whether you call it parenting, or what shaped me as an individual, was that my parents always allowed that space, the spirit of inquiry, the curiosity. And I remember my mother would always say that stand up for yourself, because when you do, you're standing up for many others who do not have a voice. And sometimes these things are said because it would be in a certain context, she would say, but when you grow older and when you look back, you realize that there are certain wisdom shared in, in not so much profundity, but still it shapes you in the time to come, that you have to stand up for yourself. Because by doing that, you're doing that for so many different people. Second, I feel that live by honesty and integrity. And I think that if we can inculcate value based parenting, where you tell your children, because we were told, not like, okay, we had a value education class at home, but like in terms of when mom would be talking to us, she would tell us these just things, like which would, if we would say something, she would correct us instantly. Um, and that becomes the mainstay of your life. So value based collective, like in terms of seeing yourself as a part of the larger ecosystem, so that you become a little more compassionate, empathetic towards the larger surrounding. And I think that's what, these are the values that need to be talked about, because despite all of this, what happens that we all live in a bubble. We don't see the other side of the world, right? So say for instance, if I wasn't working in the sector, what are the chances that I would have known about the social issues, or the or violation of rights? Maybe not. Somewhere there is always a divide, and that divide between us and them can be, I would say, bridged with with parenting, which is rooted in conversation, which is rooted in dialogue, which is rooted in value system. I think that's what I would say, because that's what shaped me. And then, as a child, or as a young person that you are, never cease to never cease to not take on the opportunity to learn. Have that learning mindset, because if you're curious, I can learn as much from an adult or an older person as from young person like you. Like there's no template to learning, that only learning has to be didactic, someone who knows more. But if we keep our learning mindset, I mean, that I'm saying that as young person or child, not so much as a parent, but that learning mindset is so important, to be able to constantly keep us curious. Be curious like a child always, because often when we grow older, we have this thing, okay, we have to be serious. But no, do not kill the curiosity. Retain the childlike spirit of honest inquiry into things that matter, and be conscious about it. And I think these are a few words as a child, and the parents that I have had, who have had a great role in contributing to shaping who I am, that I would like to share.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Curiosity should truly never die in our minds. So, my next question is again to you. So, how do you think, ma'am, is climate change affecting children? Because you have worked a lot with children. So, like, do you think there are any effects of climate change on the current situation of the children and in any aspect, be it academic or anything else?
Yeah. So I think in my opening note, when you had asked me to introduce, I did say, like we have the evidence, we know, right? But for the longest time, I feel that there has been a divide between climate as a science and climate that is impacting human lives. So it has also kept the climate as an agenda removed from people's participation, right? And now that we are looking at solutions, that every solution matters, every choice matters towards contributing to a sustainable planet, right? It could be, like if you could do a no car Sundays, for instance, or if you are like, or cycling, or planting trees. There's no solution or no step which is small or big. Every step counts and every voice matters. That's what I firmly believe in. And in terms of as I was saying earlier as well, that like the harshness of the impact of climate change on young people is unfathomable, especially if you just look at the statistics, that how young people born in 2020 are 7 times more likely to face harsher weather conditions than their grandparents born in the 60s. And that itself, if you look at it, it's a very stark reality. And we are seeing that, whether you look at flash floods happening, or whether you look at heat waves, rising heat waves, or you look at the frequency of cyclones in India itself, we have seen that how humanitarian crisis and the frequency of it has increased. So evidence is before us. And now, with Save the Children's report that was born into climate crisis, and UNICEF's report, which talks about how climate crisis is also a child rights crisis, throws further light on how children are at the center of this crisis. And if we have to make tangible steps towards tackling climate change, we got to keep young people at the center, right from the policies to its implementation to engaging you all, because you are not just the passive recipients of our decisions, right? You are you're living this reality in the time that you're born in for no fault of yours. You haven't contributed to. Generations before have contributed to the climate change with the choices that they have made. You know, whether you look at the rampant development, which sacrifices the environment and nature, and the human greed. So now is the time that we all stop, take a pause, and think about the choices, every choice that we make in our regular life. It need, the climate, tackling climate change or climate solutions need not only be like, policy documents, but a conversation starter. Take small steps towards building a sustainable planet. And I think that's all that counts. Bring more people, build a movement. Because if not now, when? Uh, because later would be too late. So that's what it is, and I strongly feel that we have to come together, and young people especially are at the center of this crisis. And there is a moral responsibility that us adults have to play a very, very critical role in making way for you, in contributing towards more sustainable choices that we make. Probably the responsibility lies more with us uh, to help the planet and the generations that will inherit this planet. Yes, Ria.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for beautifully putting it. Well said. Every step counts and every voice matters. Thank you for inspiring the youth to contribute more towards environmental awareness and being aware of our environmental choices. My next question is directed to Siddharth. Innovation and creativity should be an attribute of youth. Being from a law background, how do you think that youth can help us in bringing environmental awareness in schools?
Thank you. So I believe the fact that innovation is something that needs to be driven. And as I mentioned even during my speech, that new technologies need to be assisted to the students so that they could use them, and also it would benefit everyone. So that's what I was intending to say, that when you're in school, you're at the grassroots level. So if you carry on things during that time, you'll carry on for life. So if one learns to protect the environment, they'll respect more the fact that they need to protect the environment. A lot of people pollute the environment. They just throw garbage anywhere. Even we, for example, educated people sometimes don't bifurcate the plastic waste from the metal waste. So these are very little small steps that we can take. And as a lawyer, or as coming from a law background, I believe that awareness is something that needs to be inculcated in everyone. And awareness starts from home. So parents are the first and foremost guide to help people understand that yes, these are certain things. We could reduce the carbon footprint by using this vehicle. And now with the advent of technology, I believe there are various electronic vehicles also available, but yes, they are costly. But as mentioned by Honorable Nitin Gadkari, he said that they would be reduced. So I believe that that is also going to be a good step towards green or going green. And these innovations, these attributes that could be taken, and the youths, if they inculcate these qualities, I believe we are ahead for a good positive change. And with a lot of young change makers even in this conference, I believe they are also playing a very vital role to be at the forefront of creating a good climate for everyone, and also preserving the future generation. And as ma'am mentioned, Pragya ma'am mentioned, if not, then when? So we need to act now, get ourselves together, and be there to fight climate change, as our Honorable Prime Minister, even Narendra Modi ji, has mentioned in COP26 that climate change is something that needs to be taken into account, and we need a collaboration. So all the nations need to come together. And on pointing out this, I would also like to mention that yes, environment is a very big concern. And whenever two nations prime ministers meet, or any minister meets, the first or second question is always related to terrorism or climate change. So everyone wants to combat that. And a very good example of combating climate change is the Montreal Protocol. I believe if people know about it, it is about the ozone depletion. So Mr. Kofi Annan, the ex Secretary General of United Nations, had quoted quoted it that it is one of the most successful international agreements to have taken place. So I think with the advent of law, technology, and also motivation from young change makers, we can create a beautiful change.
Thank you so much, sir. But you mentioned the point of collaboration. So, in collaboration, there are many problems which we can face while collaborating internationally or even within our country. So, how would you like to look at this situation from your point of view? And what are a few recommendations which you can suggest?
I think when it comes to collaboration, it is upon the nations. So the United Nations Environment Program is there, and when these nations meet, they devise their own determinations of climate contribution. I think it is the climate contribution determination. So every country decides it. I think a policy could be set up to actually regulate or check. I think like there are a lot of international agreements wherein there is a clause which mentions that after 6 months period there would be review of what is happening. So I think the countries could review it. From there on, we could also gain to suggestions like improving use of green technology, motivating people, and how education curriculum could be inculcated to promote it. So I think this would be my suggestions.
Thank you so much, sir. We have Yogendra sir with us again. So, Yogendra sir, I would like for you to unmute yourself and say a few words.
Hello, ma'am. Hello.
Yes, sir, you're audible.
Ma'am, I'm comfortable in Hindi.
Yes, sir, please आप बात कर सकते हैं हिंदी में. There are no language barriers here.
ओके ओके मैम। तो मैम मैं मध्य प्रदेश के नरसिंहपुर जिले से योगेंद्र से सर मैं एक ऑर्गेनाइजेशन चलाता हूँ। मैं गवर्नमेंट टीचर हूँ और वृक्ष मित्र संस्था के माध्यम से बच्चों को जोड़ा है और उनको क्लाइमेट चेंज से रिलेटेड हम खेल खेल में उनको बहुत सारी चीजें समझाते हैं और बच्चों को हम एवरी वीक प्लांटेशन का वर्क कर रहे हैं। तो इसमें हम बच्चों को कंटिन्यू जोड़े हुए हैं और बच्चे इसमें हमारे बहुत पार्टिसिपेट कर रहे हैं और इसी के माध्यम से बच्चों को कैसे हम पर्यावरण से जोड़ें, उनको प्लांटेशन के लिए कैसे मोटिवेट कर लें। तो इसके लिए हमने एक योजना चलाते हैं यहाँ पर, एक हमारी पौधा लाओ इनाम पाओ। उसके तहत हम बच्चों से, बहुत सारे बच्चे जो हैं हमारे इसमें हमारे जुड़े हुए हैं और वो छोटे छोटे बच्चे तक पौधे तैयार करते हैं और फिर उनकी देखरेख से लेकर उनके सारे काम बच्चे ही देखरेख कर रहे हैं। तो कहीं ना कहीं हम इसमें क्लाइमेट चेंज से रिलेटेड उनको जो आने वाले भविष्य में क्या इसके दुष्परिणाम हो सकते हैं उसको लेके हम बच्चों को मोटिवेट कर रहे हैं और इसमें बहुत सफल हैं। और मुझे जॉब करते हुए लगभग 21 वर्ष हो गए हैं और इससे मेरे जो बच्चे हैं, पूर्व छात्र हैं, वो भी इस काम में काफी अच्छा सपोर्ट कर रहे हैं। जी
सर, आपके अभियान के बारे में सुनकर हमें बेहद खुशी हुई है। और
जी
सर, जलवायु परिवर्तन के मुद्दे को शिक्षक के रूप में आप कैसे देखते हैं और किस तरीके से आप बच्चों को इसके लिए जागरूक कर रहे हैं?
मैम, जलवायु परिवर्तन को लेके जो बार बार जो मौसम में जो परिवर्तन आते हैं इससे रिलेटेड क्वेश्चन करते हैं बच्चे, तो हम उनको आपके पौधारोपण के अलावा और भी कई ऐसे फैक्ट हैं जो हम उनको समझाते हैं कि प्रदूषण के कारण, जैसे आपके घर के बाहर कोई कचरा है उसको आप आग न लगाएं क्योंकि ये कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड की मात्रा वातावरण में फैला रहा है। तो बच्चे, जहां तक हम उनको ये भी समझाते हैं कि आप बच्चे जो है वो कपड़े आप ना फेंके बल्कि उन्हें दान करें, नहीं तो उसमें आग लगेगी, फिर प्रदूषण होगा। और पौधारोपण के अलावा घर में हम पानी की बचत और बिजली के उपकरणों का जो उपयोग है तभी तक उनका यूज करें। इसको लेके हम छोटे बच्चों से लेके बड़े बच्चों तक ये एनवायरनमेंट और जो बेसिक चीजें हैं जो कि भविष्य में क्लाइमेट चेंज में जो परिवर्तन आ रहे हैं और जो दुष्परिणाम उसके सामने आएंगे, इसको लेके हम बच्चों को मोटिवेट कर रहे हैं और उसमें हम सफल भी हो रहे हैं।
सर, आपके बच्चे आप ही की तरह ही पर्यावरण मित्र बन पाए, इसके लिए आप क्या कर रहे हैं और क्या क्या करने का स्वप्न देखते हैं?
मैम, मैं जहाँ तक पर्यावरण मित्र में वृक्ष मित्र संस्था के माध्यम से बच्चों को जोड़ा हूँ और बहुत सारे लोग इसमें जुड़े हैं। हमारे स्कूल में मैं सफल रहा हूँ मैम, इसमें हम प्रत्येक संडे जो है वो प्लांटेशन का काम करते हैं आसपास। उसमें हमारे बच्चे बहुत ही ज्यादा उसमें पार्टिसिपेट कर रहे हैं, और मैं चाहता हूं और इसमें मैं सफल रहा हूं कि जैसा वृक्षों के प्रति और पौधारोपण के कार्य में संलग्न हूं, मेरे बच्चे भी भविष्य में चल के एक अच्छे वृक्ष मित्र बने, और उसमें मैं सफल हो रहा हूँ। और जहां तक हमारी ये योजना है कि पौधा लाओ इनाम पाओ, इस योजना में बच्चे बहुत ही ज्यादा एक्साइटेड हैं और वो उसमें पार्टिसिपेट कर रहे हैं। तो मुझे उम्मीद है कि भविष्य में जो बच्चे हैं वो जब अच्छे नागरिक बनेंगे तो उनमें एक अच्छे संस्कार पर्यावरण को लेके अभी से मैं डेवलप करने में सफल रहा हूँ, और वो मुझे पूरी उम्मीद है कि मेरे जैसे हजारों वृक्ष मित्र हमारे क्षेत्र में अब तैयार हो रहे हैं।
सर, आपकी बातें सुन के और आपके अभियान के बारे में जान के बहुत खुशी हुई है और हमें बहुत इंस्पिरेशन मिली है।
जी जी।
The panel discussion has been a lot of inspiration and a lot of information that we have never ever heard. So moving ahead, I would like to call Amrika to address the vote of thanks.
Good morning, everyone. It has been such an honor to be a part of this wonderful event. On behalf of all team members from Sarkari School in collaboration with Economics Club, Fergusson College, I'm glad to express my vote of thanks. A special thanks to our honorable speakers, Mr. Yogendra Singh, Ms. Parul Chugh, Ms. Pragya, and Mr. Siddharth Baskar for accepting our invitation and despite their busy schedules found time to grace our event. Your thoughts have truly inspired us. It definitely gave us a new perspective towards sustainable development goals. My gratitude towards all other panelists for being here today and for sharing the valuable views and ideas. Last but not the least, I'm thanking our viewers, organizing team members, anchors, and volunteers for their contribution in this event. All of you worked so hard for this conference. I now announce this session to be over and the other session which is currently going on, that is Indian School, a space for all time. You may join there now. I once again thank all the guest speakers for motivating and inspiring us. And last but not the least, I would like to thank and congratulate our host for successful completion of the panel. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so
Thank
much.
you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.